This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, everybody. If you have questions, just go ahead.
Hi, Francis.
Hi, Alex.
The part that I'm having trouble seeing is when I go into nature, or right now I'm looking out at a tree and I can see insects and I can see hummingbirds and I can see the harmony and it all makes sense. But when I look at our own species, I see a lot of toil. I see a lot of, we're constantly problem solving and taking care of the body and social responsibilities and making a living. And it doesn't seem to be a lot of freedom when I look at humanity, but yet I can see it easily in nature. So why can't I see that same freedom when I look at our own species?
There are so many ways to answer these questions that
Another to, I guess, add on is that I see that I am the manager of the body, and I see that ultimately, as consciousness, I am the captain of the ship. But to pick at those metaphors, being a manager and a captain can be burdensome and highly responsible positions. I mean, they are not the jobs of leisure and enjoyment. So, and I can definitely see that the weight of everyday life that humans face. So if life is ultimately a celebration, why is it so hard for so many of us for life to appear as a celebration?
I guess too much mind. The difference between human beings and animals is that we have a powerful mind which has the ability to conceptualize itself, to conceptualize awareness somehow. Without the ability for the mind to conceptualize awareness somehow, there is no ignorance. There is just the immediacy of experience. Now, this ability to conceptualize awareness is both the best of all things and the worst of all things. The best of all things because the position of wisdom is not the same as the position of an animal in nature. But it is the worst of things in a sense because If it is misused, then the position of a human being in ignorance is worse than the position of an animal in nature. The French philosopher Pascal has explained that the position of the human being is halfway between the angel and the beast, with the possibility to fall into the beast or to elevate itself to the angel dome. So, and he adds, who wants to play the angel becomes the beast. And the beast is not an animal in this case, in his terminology. So it's a metaphor to illustrate the same thing I was mentioning earlier, that if the power of the human mind is used by ignorance, then it brings about a lot of suffering that the animal doesn't experience, psychological suffering. The animal is devoid of psychological suffering.
Well, one thing that doesn't make sense is that in the animal kingdom, if we put ourselves in that, you can have highly ignorant individuals rise to the top of the dominance hierarchy. So it seems that even their ignorance, in a way, can grant them, the things that all animals strive for, which is, the most food, the most mates.
Are you referring to the animal kingdom here, or are you referring to mankind? I'm not getting what you're saying.
Well, I don't see much of a separation. I feel like we're certainly not animals, but
the separation is the one I mentioned, the ability to conceptualize oneself. So when you are saying, are you talking about a species which has this ability to conceptualize itself, this self-reflexive, if you will, ability or not? That's all I'm curious about. I need to understand what you're saying when you talk about animals.
Well, aren't our bodies just animals that have the added function of being able to conceptualize ourselves?
Okay, so then you are talking about human beings, okay?
Okay.
You are not talking about the rest of the other species.
Okay.
With possible exception of some, I don't know, some apes may have some vague ability. You cannot exclude that. We don't know. I don't know. I'm not really interested, so I don't know. But so go ahead.
It just, well, now I don't, it goes back, I think, to my original question on how we can, when you say too much mind, I mean, I feel like the mind that I was born with should have been perfectly suited for the environment and the time and the age that I was born into. So
what I meant when I said too much mind, it was a way to say that we have a much more powerful mind than most animals, and that is, this mind has this specific ability to self-conceptualize, which opens the door to the possibility of ignorance. And the lack of harmony that you were alluding to in your first question among the human race. If you ask yourself the question, why? You will always end up with the same conclusion, because of ignorance. That's very simple. It's not complicated. All the big egos, the overt ones, and the more insidious and hidden ones, that's the origin of the disharmony we see. That's the origin of the wars, of conflict.
So is that certainly disharmony or just a part of the harmony? Because we see war in animal species. We see disharmony.
Wars in animal species are different. They are about survival. They are about survival and the perpetuation of the species. They are about the selection. The fittest have survived, and the fittest had the skill to survive, and they have handed down these skills through their genes and through nature and nurture to their descendants. It's a natural process. It's part of it's like the law. It's the laws of nature. Like water evaporates at 100 degrees Celsius under normal condition of pressure and temperature of pressure.
So, I mean, I don't know if this is turning the topic too much, but if you come into this world with the mind that you have, what is your stance on determinism and my mind sifting through life the way it's going to, given all the tools that it has and my unique personality? So as consciousness, is it just sitting in the background and watching the decisions play out, and the freedom knowing that I'm not really involved in that, but yet I'm here?
Who is here?
I mean, I am.
But what are you calling I? Your body?
No.
So where you are calling I awareness, right?
Yes.
So the here you are referring to, where is it?
I mean, it's the only here I know.
Right, it's not the only here. So it is not a here which is somewhere, right?
Exactly. No, it's the only here.
Yeah.
I mean, it just feels like we're all, I mean, if you can put an experiment together with human beings and you can almost to a T determine what every human body mind is going to decide. We're getting really good at nailing down determinism and how people make decisions. But so awareness in that is the only the only thing that's there. But the prism of the body mind is still influenced by the cause and effect of its surroundings and the information that it can take in. So in that sense, it is a bio machine or a biocomputer, like you said. So am I just along for the ride, in a sense?
The question is the human machine a closed system like a computer? The input gates of which, the ports of which we know? Or does this machine have a hidden access, a hidden source through which creativity manifests. So in your deterministic view, you reduce, yes, the human body to a machine, but a closed machine which has access to information solely through the base of the five senses. For instance, in artificial intelligence, let's ask one question that relates to your question. Can, at some point, a computer using artificial intelligence algorithms, neural networks, have the same ability of the human mind? And when you look at the algorithms that are used in the neural network, in artificial intelligence, there are optimization processes using a lot of parameters. Through training, the machine acquires a lot of parameters, and the optimization process is simply a simple gradient descent, meaning it's a way using numerical analysis to evaluate the extremum of a function of several variables. In this case, a lot of variables because there are a lot of parameters. So this mathematics tool, which is being used, basically calculus, basically how to determine the minimum of a function of several variables. This very simple tool, mathematical tool, is an extremely tiny fraction of the whole of mathematics, right? Very tiny, tiny fraction. How could possibly this tiny fraction of mathematics, which is being used by this machine, create and discover the whole body of mathematics? Impossible. Impossible. It defies intelligence. So when we say that computers are going to become as smart as human beings, not that way, not this computer, no, they may become more powerful to calculate, but we know already that. You take this, and it has a little calculator here, and I can input there 1,935 times 1,344,000, and in no time it calculates it. I am unable to calculate that. So for calculation, yeah, computers are efficient more than human beings. But for creativity, they create nothing. They simply do as they are told. There is no creativity in them. That's very important to understand, that creativity comes from another source.
Okay.
And that there is an inner door within us through which creativity comes, and that addresses the question of determinism that you were, because the question of determinism takes into consideration a machine which is connected to the universe, right? And subjected to the laws of physics, and as a result, the outcome of whatever this machine does can be known in advance. That's the deterministic view. But what about the creativity?
Yeah. So it's not a closed system, and there is an opening, and the opening would be to the noumenal.
Exactly. And through which, and the noumenal, if you will, is a two-way street. And one way it perceives, the other way it creates.
Yeah. Okay.
And this creation, and both this perception and this creation, they come from freedom, because itself, awareness is freedom itself. That's why we feel somehow that we are in charge of our thoughts, that we create our thoughts. Because awareness knows itself as freedom, our innate freedom. So it is both free from and free to, because as I was saying, it's a two-way street. One way it perceives, so as the perceiver, it is free from the perceived. You see what I mean? It is free from the perceived.
Yes.
It is not affected by the perceived. So that's freedom from. But as the creator, its creation comes from its freedom. That's why our decision, our thoughts, we feel we own them. We are free to create. But because this awareness is not limited to this body mind, this freedom from and this freedom to is not individual but universal. We have to understand that whatever is happening within the microcosm of the human body is only one. It is only the microscopic aspect of the macrocosmic perception / creation, if you.
Yes. Yeah. No, that makes sense.
But remember, regarding the first question about the disharmony in the world and among the human species, why we as humans are not as nice as animals, it's because we have been given this possibility of realization. And or we have given ourselves as the creator in the form of this human species, this possibility, and with it comes the possibility of ignorance. It's a game we are playing.
So in that respect, then determinism kind of goes out the window. We can, in fact, run the species into the ground, or we can do many creative freedom-based things. So it kind of is in our hands.
Yes, there is no materialist determinism really, because materialism doesn't take into account the noumenal.
Yeah.
On the other hand, whatever appears is the creation of the noumenal, and from that place, whatever appears comes from absolute freedom. But from the vantage point of a separate individual, of course, there is no freedom.
Yes.
Because the human machine is created. It doesn't create, it is created. And its action, whether they come from the program on the machine which leads to mechanical actions, the one you were referring to, or whether they come from the inner source of creativity, in which case they escape the mechanical aspect. In both cases, these actions don't originate from the machine itself.
But doesn't it seem like so much of the day is taken up with machine actions? I mean, doesn't it seem like it's 95% of the day is just
Well,
the maintenance of this?
No, because the machine actions are, the machine is designed for this mechanical action to become subconscious. The body does it. The body is a servant of the absolute. But you see the necessity to take care of the machine as a burden instead of seeing it as a gain.
Yeah, probably.
And if you ask yourself, a burden for whom? What say you?
I would say that's a good point. A burden for whom? And I would say there's nobody really there to carry the burden. Nevertheless, the sensation of burden is experienced.
Look at the animal kingdom. They are constantly taking care. Look at the bird, constantly taking care, picking a seed there, cleaning her feathers, etc. Constantly, and then, but all of that is done so instinct, automatically. The bird doesn't feel a burden eating, finding food, mating, perpetuating the species, taking care of the eggs, of the... It's all playful.
I mean, not to make it go on any longer. I'm sorry to keep picking, but do we know that for sure? How do we know the beaver doesn't experience anxiety when he needs to build his dam? Like, do we know that for sure? Like, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm just being silly at this point, but I don't know.
Well, we don't know that for sure. I will grant you that. That's. I'm not attached to what I've said. Perhaps the beaver believes to be a beaver, and perhaps the beaver has the opportunity to be in ignorance or to be in wisdom. That doesn't change anything. Then the beaver is like a human being. Why not? I'm not attached to what I've said about animals. But then, if they are like us, then what applies to us applies to them, and then we are back to the same problem of ignorance in their case.
Right. Right. No, thank you for that, Francis. That's given me a lot to think about.
Hi, Francis.
Hi, Melody.
With regards to thoughts, I thought they were, in your terms, cosmic events. So
Yes.
why is it that maybe you would term them New Age philosophies, encourage the use of, for example, looking at yourself in the mirror and repeating mantras. And there seems to be some effect, some sort of the cause of contriving these thoughts in the mind, like, okay, I want to make $1 million by the end of the year. And that actually manifesting in perhaps some cases. Is it because of what you were just saying earlier about the like the freedom to create, as well as is it because of the freedom to create that sometimes the willful use and intentional use of contrived thought actually does result in something the body mind wants?
Well, if we take the example, I want to make $1 million. Do I just have this thought without taking any action, or do I buy a lottery ticket? Do I start a business? You see what I mean? Do I pay visit to my distant relative who has no children and who is filthy wealthy and is terminally ill? So, in other words, do I take any action? Because if I take actions towards making money, I'm not saying that whatever activity I have with that goal is going to be useless. No. So the efficiency of thought alone can be observed. This determination can be made only if no action is taken. Would you agree with that?
It seems that in certain stories, people receive things, so they don't actually have to do anything.
Yeah. Okay. So yes. Okay. So then we take the case of I badly want $1 million. I do nothing for that, right? And $1 million falls onto my lap. That's what you are
As an
talking
example.
about. Now, the first observation is that if that happens, it is a very rare occurrence for the following reason. If we would conduct a poll in the United States asking the question, would you like $1 million, yes or no? Guess what would be the outcome of this poll? I mean, it would be quite different from the presidential polls, right? It would be an overwhelming majority of 99.999% who would say, yes, I want. In other words, this desire for $1 million, everybody has it. So then it gets fulfilled only on very rare occasions. So in most cases, it doesn't get fulfilled. So it is very unscientific then to attribute the fulfillment on those rare cases of this desire to the fact that we had this desire, because in most cases it doesn't get fulfilled.
Okay, so there's a statistical sampling issue. Got it. But then, is there any?
It's not. If you got it, it shows that this claim is completely bogus. That's that simple. That's what it shows.
So is there no?
It's more bogus. It's more bogus New Age stuff. I'm sorry, I'm losing my audience here, at least the ones who are New Age oriented. I mean, it's total crap.
So your stance is that there is no power, no efficacy to mere thought alone, intentional repeat.
You are not getting my drift. It's not my stance. It's my experience. And it is yours too, because just wish yourself $1 million tomorrow. Just have this wish. I want tomorrow $1 million falling on my lap without doing anything. And now tomorrow, come back, and tomorrow at 12, we have a meditation. I will make an exception for you. And come back and give me the outcome of your experiment. Come back tomorrow at 12. Now, if you come with $1 million in the bank that have all of a sudden appear, then I say, you know what, Melody, I was completely wrong. But if you don't have the $1 million, I was right, you were wrong.
And time has nothing to do with it. Because if you take a more maybe a New Age person is saying, hey, that's unrealistic. Overnight, $1 million doing nothing. I don't even buy into that, says the New Age person, right? But then if you say over the course of 5 years.
No, because if it is the fulfillment of a thought, of a wish, this wish, there are no limitations to the wish. So this wish can be $1 billion tomorrow. What $1 billion? $1 trillion tomorrow. Any wish, right? $1 trillion tomorrow. So you will solve the problem people have who are unemployed now. You can give your $1 trillion to them.
So the reason that New Age people believe this is just because of a handful of anecdotes.
Right.
Okay, interesting.
Now, that was the first part of our conversation. Now there is a second part to it, which is interesting, which is this. A personal wish, which comes from the belief of being a separate entity, is one thing. And this thing would rarely get fulfilled. However, there is a different kind of wish, which is a wish that doesn't come from ignorance, that comes from awareness itself, from reality itself. This type of wish is simply a preview of things to come. That's different. So this type of wish will seem to materialize. But it could be seen as a wish. It could be seen also as a preview of what's going to happen. An access, if you will, to the timeless creativity.
And that access is perhaps comes to a person spontaneously without control.
Yeah, it doesn't really come to a person. It comes to itself, and it can be, but it would be. It cannot be manufactured. You see, and that's the thing. it has to come from an inspiration. It has to come from love. It has to come from beauty, from intelligence. You know, it cannot be, for instance, oh, I wish nobody would die. This wish, I wish nobody would die ever. This wish seems to be coming from love, right? It seems to be compassionate. So then if I wish nobody would ever die, according to Francis, that should manifest and everybody should become, I mean, no, everybody, every human body, not us as awareness, because as awareness we don't die, but every human body would become, I mean, that would create a problem pretty soon, right, on planet Earth, because if we have already some problem with the environment, right, can you imagine if nobody would die, we would procreate and proliferate as a human species, and it would create incredible problems with pollution, etc. But that's not the issue. If we would have such a wish, it would come not from true love. It would be kind of mechanical, you see? It wouldn't come from inspiration. So, but yes, the wishes that come from inspiration, from true, which are truly impersonal, these are harbingers of things to come. And because of that has been misunderstood, it has led to the New Age version of it, which is every thought will materialize. Good luck with that. Try with $1 trillion in your bank account tomorrow at noon. Try with this one. Let's conduct the experiment.
Are there other major areas that within New Age thought that you take issue with? I'm not very well versed in it, but I'm
That's
interested to
very
hear.
simple. Everything.
Okay.
Conspiracy theories, anti-scientific attitudes. You know, like Bill Gates is giving money to find a vaccine for COVID-19 because he wants to inject in us some nano devices, and because he's part of some Illuminati type of secret society in conjunctions with extraterrestrials. I'm sorry, because I am losing my audience here by the minute by saying that I don't believe in this junk. If there is a vaccine tomorrow for COVID-19, I will be the first to get it. And because I will consider that it is good for me, but also that it is good for everybody else. Just that as wearing a mask is good for everybody else, no matter what people on the right or on the left have to say about it. So now I have lost the Trump part of my listeners.
That's very edifying. Thank you, Francis.
Hi, Francis.
Yes, Caitlin.
Hi. I want to continue with this theme of creation and perception. It triggers a lot of questions for me, but so basically, like if I look at creation, it's really easy for me to see like like the oneness and also how impersonal it is. It's like so obvious that everything is coming out of, you know, this one creator. But then if I look at perceiving, it seems much more personal and divided. So I'm wondering, so I'll stop there. That's my first question. How can I translate
Yes.
that?
No, but that through which you perceive is very personal and divided.
Yes.
You see? But the fact that the human body-mind apparatus through which you perceive, the fact that this human apparatus through which you perceive is localized, limited, divided, does it imply that you, the awareness, perceiving through it and creating it, along with the trees, the other human beings, and everything else, are separate, limited, and divided?
Right. I knew you were going to say that. So here comes the next question. um, what about, you know, if we were like out in deep space somewhere where there's no sentient beings to perceive, and then it's just like, does there have to be perceiving? Could it be just
No.
creation?
Yes.
And so we're just like in this wonderful realm where we have this, you know, advantage of perceiving the beauty of this earth. Like so it's not like there has to be, consciousness can be just like, you know, the creation of a star, and there can be nothing there to perceive it.
Yeah, we don't know. The real question, the real answer to this question, and perhaps yes, perhaps no. We have no reason to believe that things don't exist when they are not perceived, any more than we have reasons to believe that things exist when they are not perceived. We have no, so we have to be agnostic, we have to be not knowing. Perhaps stars exist when they are not perceived, perhaps they don't exist when they are not perceived. We cannot make this call based on our phenomenal experience. So whoever makes this call, one way or the other, it's a form of belief, it's a form of religion.
So for me, it seems like the real function of consciousness then is actually primarily creation. And then perceiving is, I mean, I can see how it's happening simultaneously, the creation and the perception, but if there's no being there to perceive it, but there's still, it seems like there's always creation. So, and then perception comes next.
It's the problem with your view that according to which the primary function of consciousness is creation, is that it assumes that consciousness always creates.
Yeah, because I can't imagine nothing.
Well, that's a problem. Because in fact, consciousness is always aware, but it doesn't always create.
Yeah. So if we go back into deep space and there's that star, like what is aware of it? If consciousness is always aware, what is aware? Like, is it more like, oh, the star is shining and that's awareness?
there is a space deeper than this deep space in which there is only consciousness. And this space is only consciousness, and there is no time elapsing.
And it's aware.
And consciousness is aware of itself in the experience of peace and eternity and love and splendor, intelligence. It's being. The primary attribute of consciousness is being.
Okay, that's helpful.
And being is also being aware. There is no being without being aware. And there is not awareness without being. But there is not always awareness of something. In other words, the manifestation, the creative aspect of awareness is not the only aspect of awareness. There is the timeless presence.
Okay. I think I had my mistake was kind of equating being with creating, but I can see the difference now.
Yeah, because usually we identify being with something
Existing.
being manifested, yeah, which is existing in the, the verb existing, it means really to come out of. So existence, things, they come out, things that exist, they come out of the ground of being. So things don't always exist, but being always is. So, and being is awareness. So the experience of being is the experience of awareness. And the experience of awareness is with things and without things.
Yes, okay. It's hard for the mind to grasp, but I can feel that somehow.
Well, no, it relates to your experience because because your experience is both the experience of, for instance, in this moment of my words, of your thoughts, but when you understand my words, when you understand your thoughts, you are alone as this intelligence. So we go back and forth from this place of intelligence in which there is only our understanding to the knowing of the sounds, to the knowing of the words, to the knowing of the thoughts.
Yeah.
We
Beautiful.
go from knowing the thought to understanding the thought. As we know the thought, awareness is present as the thought it knows. And when we understand the thought, awareness is present as the understanding of the thought, but the thought is no longer present.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi, Francis.
I get you.
Francis, sometimes when things are disturbing, I'm not sure what am I to do that's in alignment with the impersonal. And sometimes there are sensations. I believe you don't like the word feelings, so sensations with emotions, which seem to feel like an indication is coming from within that something needs doing or understanding here. And at that time, I'm not sure how, with the understanding of the pointings, because obviously the pointings here are not like, get up and do this and get up and do that. It's to realize that one is awareness. So obviously it's subtler. So how do we understand?
So, as an experiment, you can verify what I am going to say. And it's important to verify it again and again and again. Every time you experience a negative emotion or feeling, whatever you call it, see that the only reason why you experience this negative feeling is because you believe to be a separate and limited person, a separated and limited awareness.
And separated from what?
From the rest of the world, from other people, from...
So you understand that there must be the innate assumption that you must have assumed that without realizing. And then where do you go?
Yes, but you have to verify that, because then whenever you experience a negative emotion, if you have verified that enough, you know that the root cause for this emotion is not because he has called me stupid, or is not because someone scratched my car on the parking lot. It's because I believe to be a separate entity.
So instead, it should be that this is consciousness expressing in all the various things, like something through another instrument has scratched this or done this. Yes?
Yes, but most importantly, that there is nobody there who is really affected by the event or can be affected. The car got scratched, not me. An imaginary separate Gayatri got insulted, not me.
I was referring more to like I'm sitting alone in my own space. There's nobody here, and I can feel a sensation. And I'm assuming the sensation is with the emotion of anxiousness or something. So, which people refer to as feelings, I suppose. That's why I made a distinction and I tried to call it a sensation. It's not that somebody else came and said something to me. I just felt it in the body and it was quite uncomfortable. And it seems that, okay, if feelings or sensations are the language of the heart, it's trying to tell you something that...
Well, if you wouldn't believe to be a separate individual, this sensation wouldn't be there. That's
Right.
part
So
of the homework. this sensation, there is a sense of impending doom or a sense of lack or a sense of something like that.
And after that point, one seems to be a little confused as to where to go next to figure out that no, I am not separate self, you know?
Because
The how
yeah,
to.
because yeah, because, but you know, it's important if you're sick to diagnose, to have the proper diagnosis of the illness. And in this case, the diagnosis is always, because I believe to be a separate entity. So you know already the diagnosis. It's always the same diagnosis, but you have to be your own MD, your own physician. And you have in every specific case to understand that that is the proper diagnosis. Otherwise,
Yes, I can agree with that as a diagnosis, but I'm not sure I fully understand what that means when I use the word separate entity. I'm not entirely sure, as opposed to
okay, what I means is this, is that you who is hearing my words right now, that's what I call you who is hearing my words right now, you're not a woman, you're not a human body, you're not a human mind, you're awareness, you. And this you who is hearing my words, there is no evidence that it can be affected by anything. There is no evidence whatsoever. The moment you believe that this you is dependent upon a body, which can be affected by events, then you are in trouble. Then this sense of fear and doom can arise. But as long as you understand your invulnerability, the sense of doom cannot arise.
So to this point, something is clear. And I can sense that there is something about which is asking, like, does it mean I then consciously try and remind myself for a little bit to know that you are that which is aware of this body and mind?
Ask yourself in this case, what could possibly affect me as this awareness which is hearing these words right now? Ask yourself this question. What could possibly affect me?
I just feel to sit with that and just silent when when you ask that.
Francis, it's Rachna here. May I ask a
Rachna?
follow-up to that question, please?
Go ahead, Rachna.
Yes, yeah, can you hear me? Yeah, thank you. So I think I have something similar to what Gayatri was talking about. And what I've noticed is that in some ways, when I feel this body sensation, I'm much better at not labeling it. But I do contract. So I've noticed that I'll contract my stomach muscles, and then I notice I'm contracting them, then I release them. And it was just to get some advice about that. Do I just notice it and see what happens? It feels as if, though, that by contracting, I'm trying to in some way protect myself from the, it's not really discomfort, but I perceive it to be something that I want to get rid of. So it's just to ask about, yeah, this contraction that I do. I think it's subconscious, but I do notice that I do it.
Yeah, I wouldn't really get involved at that time. At that time, I wouldn't get involved with the somatic element. I would do what I've just told Gayatri to do, which is to go to realize my invulnerability,
Mm.
to take refuge in my invulnerability, and let the body, through its natural mechanism, deal with the residue of the emotion. For the following reason, that, you know, is what I say, when the firemen arrive on the scene, the first thing they do is to cut to the gas pipe, the gas line, before they start dealing with the fire. Because it doesn't make sense to try to extinguish the fire when the fire is still being fueled. So this taking refuge in our innate invulnerability prevent any further fueling, if you will, of the fear, which has brought about these contractions. So when that is done, take refuge in your invulnerability, and the body immediately, because it stops the root cause. It's like when you have, as you know, that if you have cured an infection, you know, by using the antibiotics, so the bacteria are not any longer present in the system. Now, you leave it up to the natural intelligence of the body to repair the damage that has been caused, right? That's the same here. Once you have stopped the root cause of the fear, you leave it up to the body with its innate intelligence to fix the damage that has been caused. In other words, to go back to peace, to go back to relaxation, which is the natural state of the body, really.
Okay.
That is very different from the yoga. It is not a good moment when you are subjected to fear to do the yoga. The good moment to do the yoga is when you are interested, when you are not under stress, you are interested in conducting experiments that are going to change, to reprogram the way we perceive the world and the body, to make them, to realign them with the possibility that awareness is the universal reality. So then it's a deliberate effort, if you will, to reprogram the mind, to make it more consistent with truth. And as a result, it's also an experiment in truth that you are conducting, the outcome of which will reveal itself later on during our daily activities when we don't think about it. But it's important to separate these two issues. When we are already subjected to negative emotions, that's not a good moment to do the yoga. It's a moment to take refuge in our understanding, in our experience of our innate invulnerability.
Okay.
Meaning consciousness cannot be affected
Mm.
by anything perceived. You
Mm.
see?
Mm. Okay. Okay, I will do this and let you know. Thank you very much.
Sorry, Francis, I was actually not done speaking with you. I wanted to say thanks,
Please, please.
but someone's question came, and it's in the last few minutes there's been a time change, and it's my birthday, the body's birthday. So I think this is the best gift that I could get. I'm near to tears for that. You know, thank you very much. And I just felt to say that, you know, I go silent when you say that. If I sit with myself and I say that, there is silence. Yes. Blankness would not be a right word, but if I have to answer about it and say something, I am silent. And
yeah, and these are moments of freedom. What is important is to know that, and then because then we know that freedom is not out of reach. And then this moment of freedom, they will reproduce themselves and establish themselves in a continuum down the road.
so one consciously sits and asks, what is it that can have any, or like, you know, like a reminding that nothing can really have an effect on that which is aware. You know, I mean, I know you say not to do something as a practice, but just this much. Is this?
Yeah, but once we have seen it, we can never forget it, you know, so it will remind itself. We don't even have to program reminder on our iPhone.
So it's not a mental reminding then, you feel? It's not like mentally reminding.
It's the understanding, because the understanding, once this door has been opened, it never closes again. It's impossible.
Yeah, so that's what makes me hesitant to feel like maybe the seeing is not fully seen here. Because if it was, then the outcome would be confidently different in my, just I would know.
Well, you know that you are awareness, and you experientially know that awareness is not affected by anything it perceives, unlike the body, unlike the mind.
Yes, I meant being pulled without realizing into an identification or a reaction or anything, to not be stable in that.
That's in the beginning, yes, it happens. But that's what I said. These oscillations will change over time and towards a stabilization into peace.
Thank you, Francis. And this is I don't know how, and but ultimately the same I which is there in Francis and the same I, maybe I'm asking the I to help speed up or whatever. I don't know what to say, but the realization and being stable in the
Yeah.
realization.
When you ask this question, you have left the space.
That's actually right. Oh. I meant chocolates and candies don't last, but the remembering, the being, you know. So just thank you. Thank you.
Francis?
Yes, Florian.
Quick question, a clarification on what you said a little bit earlier in this dialogue about, and you've mentioned this before, that we perceive through this body-mind. And that obviously this tells us nothing about that which really perceives. And while I can see that this is true to an extent and makes complete sense, I'm wondering, upon reflecting on my dreams, where I can also say that within, as long as the dream is going on, it really seems like this person is perceiving, or the body mind is necessary to perceive or interact or whatever. But upon waking up, I realized I didn't really perceive through the body mind. It's not like I that perceive don't really need a body or a mind for that matter. So my question is it ultimately not ultimately true, right? I mean, we don't really perceive through the body. The body is just, and the mind is just something that is perceived, but it's not essential to perceiving. Or am I? Is this a misunderstanding?
I think that this question cannot be answered based on phenomenal experience.
Which leaves the door open to the non-phenomenal, the noumenal knowledge that.
No. What can be definitely the statement that can be definitely made is that awareness is necessary for perception. But whether a human body is necessary to perceive the world during the waking state or not, this question cannot be answered based on phenomenal experience, one way or the other.
Okay, yes.
And moreover, the answer to this question is not important, because the real important answer is the one I gave, that yes, awareness is necessary. So that's the answer. It's not about the mind, it's not about the mind or the world. It's about awareness. So, because the question about the mind and the world is this: does the mind require the world, or does the world require the mind? Requires the mind. This question cannot be decided based on phenomenal experience.
Does the mind or the world require each other? No.
Is the world and the human body necessary to experience the mind, or is the mind necessary to have a world? Is is the mind dependent on the human body and therefore on the physical universe, or is the physical universe and the human body, are they dependent upon the mind? That's a question that cannot be decided based on the experience of the mind, of the body, and of the world.
Yes, and like you said, the only thing that we do know is that we don't need, awareness doesn't need either. So
no, we don't need to answer this question because it doesn't matter ultimately. Because the only thing that matters is that it is all dependent upon awareness.
yes, yes.
And that awareness is the reality of all of that.
Yes. So when you say something like we perceive through the body mind, it has to be taken with a grain of salt.
Yes, it seems that we perceive through the body mind. Yes, yes.
Okay, okay.
Those who believe that they have evidence that the mind, that the world is dependent for its existence upon the mind that perceives it, are kidding themselves. Those who believe that the mind is dependent upon the body and the physical realm for its very existence, and that they have evidence that proves it, are also kidding themselves. These two positions that are mutually exclusive are in fact two opposing religions. All we know is that awareness, reality, is required to have a world, to have a body, to have a mind.
Yes. Thank you, Francis.
Thank you.
Thank you, Francis.
Thank you, Francis.